This is Dan Max of eXp Realty, aka the Trade Agent. This is your live market chat Monday, January 8th, 2024. Hopefully you had a great weekend, had a chance to check out the weekend market recap. Also, if you have any questions, again, please don't hesitate to reach out, interrupt, drop a link. Let me know how I can help you. A lot going on. Market today, are we surprised by a bounce? No, we talked about this, like Apple, certain tech names, especially tech, being oversold going into today. Not surprised. Certain names are bouncing. Certain names are bouncing stronger than others. Certain names just really aren't even bouncing. And that's what we need to talk about because, again, the divergence in the market action. So, again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. If you're in the Discord room, drop a comment as needed. I'll try to answer it. Yeah. And oops, that's not it. That is not what I was looking for. So, there we go. Restore all. Boom, there we go. Hey, Space Pete, how are you today, buddy? So, going into today, as we talked about, again, I'm getting distracted by it. I can't get stupid links to open. Trying to get them all to open at once. We expected slightly oversold, right? Anyone surprised that it bounced? Anybody? Bueller, right? We talked about this. Talked about it very clearly. And it's not like it's a big deal. I mean, this is where people, I think, get wrapped around the axle a lot of times is that, mic check, can you hear me? Right? Can you hear me? Mic check. Huh. Wonder if, can you hear me? Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah, people get their head wrapped around the axle when it's not down every day or up every day, and it's funny. Cool, thanks. I get trolled, and again, I don't mind trolls. Eventually, I'll just delete them if they're just talking junk. Because again, it's one of those things, like, we don't expect straight line moves down. We always talked about this. The first drop is always going to find some sort of buy at some level, and then it bounces, usually the 20-day, and the 20-day starts curling down. And so going into today, no one should be surprised by this. I mean, it's just a matter of when, if not if. And I'm kind of glad it actually happening today. Just rip the Band-Aid off. We talked about it. And now, again, this is not an exact draw to replica, but this is what we thought. Drop, come back to the 20-day. Does it need a chop and then head down lower? That's pretty typical. We talked about this many times off of highs, like real highs, right? This is what happens. You come back to the 20-day, right? Find your, here's your 20-day, right? Popping, dropping, slopping. I mean, here it is, 20 days. I mean, this is pretty typical. Now, again, how extreme is the top? I mean, in my opinion, I've said this. I think the top is really in. And I don't know if it's for the year. Because this is what can be crazy. I mean, this could be a wild year all over. Again, we've showed you guys and gals the 1970s. Like, this is the whole decade chopping around. And if you pay attention to the history of this stuff, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there's talks of Biden dropping out. There's people pissed off. I mean, the market in general pissed off about so many things. I mean, we could talk about all of them, but it's again, I don't expect earnings to continue to be strong. And again, they're not even really strong. That's the irony. Is just the paying 21. What's the PE now in the S&P 500? 21. Historically, it's 17. I mean, you're overpaying for earnings. Why is the market price in 6 rate cuts, right? We talked about how the bond market, the 10-year went, whatever, 5.5 or whatever it was, 5 and change down to upper 3s. Like, that's quick. And so they're expecting a rate cut in March. Not surprised. Bitcoin, I mean, I'm impressed. It's holding up. I mean, you're going into the supposedly adoption SEC is going to allow for ETFs, that's fine. And we've talked about this. This is not a surprise. I mean, is it going to break out? I've said it's probably going to get stuck around here. Again, smart money was buying down here, and they're using probably the leverage in the excitement to sell out. Now, again, will it run higher in time? Probably, but just like gold, all these liquidity assets, it's probably going to be stuck for a while until the Feds actually do pivot. It's the most anticipated pivot in the history of pivots. Oil. Looks like the Saudis want to drop prices to be competitive. Again, just goes to show you that demand is weak. Natural gas, again, I like natty gas. And again, I'm not chasing it here, but I like, if it dips, the KOLD gets back to 100. Man, I think it barely get up. That was a really good short at the 110 plus. Yeah, again, if you're on Twitter, and again, if you talk junk, I don't mind occasional talking junk, but some of these trolls, man, they're just like, they say things that I'm just like, you don't watch the videos, you just talk junk. It's like, come on, man. I'm all for banter, right? Check out the website. I will say that the troll did say something. He's like, you're getting rich off of 5.5% yielding these promo codes. And I'm like, if you actually know how the codes work, I actually share them with Discord members and friends so that they can get their maxed referral promotion rates. So if you are a friend of mine and you're looking to do that, let me know. I just spin it around to the next person because you can only get 5 a year. And so for me, mine don't, I think, reset until June of this year. Yep. Getting rich off of referral codes. I thought that was pretty funny. I actually did laugh at that one. Interactive brokers, again, not really making, I haven't received anything from a single person related to interactive brokers. So I don't know if anyone's using it, but I'm telling you right now, when something goes wrong with the brokerages, someone's going to be like, well, I guess I should have done it then. And it's like, and yeah, getting good feedback. Some people are reading BPA book, loving it. Again, I think it's a good book. All right, so back to the Qs, right? Because this is what was leading down, and now it's back at the 20-day. Are you surprised? No. I mean, NVIDIA today, the news on it, little suspect, little sus, attempting to break out. I mean, I guess there's going to be a lot of chasers on a Monday breaking out over the range highs. Again, I didn't really think this would go, but this is the thing. I wasn't shorting it directly. I had no intentions of. The only thing I'm shorting semiconductor right now is Taiwan Semi. I think they are an absolute problem in time, running into problems. Yep. Cool. Yeah, Shannon. Yeah, exactly. Shannon's been getting them the referrals. I don't use them. I mean, I use mine out. So that's kind of what I'm watching. We talked about Apple. You know, people are talking about it's the most oversold it's been. Yada, yada, yada. Again, since probably around here. Not surprising. Okay. Multi-del range. This takes the pressure off. A little bounce. Again, the volumes are going to be probably on doo-doo. China's an issue. And again, I don't know how long this will hold up because we've talked about China is going to try to reunify with Taiwan this year. They're going to try to get it in before the election, in my opinion. We'll see what happens. Meta, a lot of people are talking and getting frustrated. I'm like, yeah, that's the nature of the beast sometimes. Back up where we started shorting it. It's like, okay, you're going to give up on the trade. That's kind of your choice. Define your risk. That's what you should always do. And again, this is where people will get all bent around the axle. So, I mean, if you would have shorted, again, like Apple up here, we talked about, not surprised. If you took a little profits, now you're just sitting here like da-da-da-da-da. It's kind of like Airbnb. You know, you trade around it. We've talked about it. All right, it comes down. Okay, well, here you go. Maybe it needs to get to the 20-day. I don't know where the bounce ends, but I knew the bounce is probably temporary. Google, people are looking at this. I mean, all these names, they're all good, right? All good. Like, okay, freak out again. It's so hard to go in one direction all day, every day. And so if you have like that mentality, that mindset, I really don't think you should be trading. I was looking at CF because some people are talking about call action in that one, and it's like, I don't know. Because, again, I don't like the way these are acting, but if there's call action, they start dipping enough. I mean, CF, I mean, this wasn't in Mosaic, but some of the other ag names aren't holding up, so I really don't have that much faith in material names. Again, I mean, you should take a cue from the Saudis. If they're cutting oil prices, demand is soft. Soft buggers. Wondering a big 100 shoulders and CF. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I mean, maybe. AA, I mean, a lot of these names, like they got oversold. Here's what's interesting, right? Financials are on fire. Yep. Nice one, Jordan. Yeah, looking up here, hanging out at the highs. Love the short up here. Love it. Look at JP Morgan finally starting to like look a little tired. We'll see on a day where the market's up and this is down $2.50. Kind of says a lot, but be careful. You got earnings Friday, right? You got CPI Thursday. I mean, call me crazy. And again, this is what, as I would want to do if I was confusing the most amount of people that I could. If the CPI is Thursday, bank earnings are on Friday, let's pull out I'm like pull the right words. Let's take off the oversold conditions and let it chop around the next 3 days. So if you are going to be trading, do be aware the big data is Thursday and Friday, being earnings, the first bank earnings. So would you be surprised? I mean, again, it's I'm like, same people get so turned up, so frustrated. Like, you know, you start looking ahead. This is why we talk about what's on the calendar, or you should be doing the calendar stuff on your own, either way. Knowing like, okay, you know, please just be aware. Like the market could go nowhere for a couple of days, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not the trend is broken or it's up, in my opinion. It's just probably gonna be what? Backfilling. And what if today, this is where the irony is, like what if, let's find an example of this. And again, you always have to use the past. Always use the past, please. Like couple day range, right? Couple day pop, chop. I mean, just watch what happens when the 20-day becomes resistance. Like you can chop around, right? Chop around. We'll see what happens. And again, define your risk. Do whatever you do. But I still think we're going to come back down to lower levels. It's just, again, I don't mind the orderly action. A lot of people get frustrated. It's like, man, you just trade around. You're like, shop here, and you add a little, I was going to think of making a joke, like cinnamon to the pie, right? All right, take a cut, have a piece of pie, eat it, right? I think sprinkle on another little trade here, little layer out, layer in, layer out. Okay, it's not rocket. This is science. Yeah, and I mean, NVIDIA's kind of the name, catching it, but it's interesting, like watching Tesla. This thing's got nothing burger. Apple, of course, oversold. Amazon kind of had that big down day last week. It's just chopping around. Microsoft's been one of those names that's gone nowhere for a while. That's cool. Still going nowhere. Micron, we talked about this one being just an unbelievable piece of junk. All right, well, here you go. Fill in some gaps. Starting to wick at it. Again, Meta, whatever. Oil, I mean, this is where it gets choppy and sloppy. Said this is going to be difficult. Well, it's all over the place. Again, I like oil names. People are like, oh, oil's not the future. I'm like, well, there's no transition plan. So I don't know if you go into a recession and then you pump liquidity and there's no solution, then oil is probably going to rally like crazy. And that's why this Saudi is probably like, oh, yeah, let's get the prices down and get people to really just make sure they don't diversify. Like, do not diversify out of oil. Like, that's what they're thinking. So this kind of is what it is, right? People are like, well, what are you up to today? I'm like, not really a ton, just watching levels. I'm like, QQQ hit the 20-day. I'm like, okay. Now you can start layering back into some shorts that you may have taken off. Pick and choose your favorite name. You're shopping. So any questions, thoughts, concerns? I appreciate all the love and support. You know, a lot of people just, again, on day to day, it's like the bulls that are always bullish, like pop up when a day's up, and the bears that are always bearish pop up on a down day. And it's like, I'd love to tell you today, tomorrow, whenever is going to happen, but let's put the probabilities in our favor and just think about it. Like, look at the calendar, right? We're looking at the future calendar. Not a lot until what? Thursday. So probably not going to be a whole lot unless, here you go. This is the wild card. Headline driven. Headline news, right? So XLF again makes sense up here. Getting a little tired. I mean, I don't know. There's just a lot of names. It's interesting because the market's up and NASDAQ looks really green, but then it's like, okay, the IWM, that's cool. We're not surprised. We said, I mean, another thing we talked about in the weekend recap, like you're slightly oversold near term. You go from 206 down to 190. Okay, here you go. Here's your 20-day. Gold today. I mean, this is where every day I get somebody talking junk and they're like, dude, you're a gold bull. You know what's coming. And I'm like, yeah, I know what's coming. It's probably going to get stuck. Oh, don't chase the breakout. I'm like, dude. And, you know, here's me being, dude, GDX ain't working, homie. GDXJ ain't working. Miners, you played the up. Now you just got to let them stroll out. I mean, no Newmont, nothing. Nothing burger. So, again, what's the best trade now? In my opinion, shorting tech. I mean, NVIDIA is interesting. I mean, not that I want to jump in front of that. I know some people were talking about they got a release coming up. about some new chips. Great. Could it run up into that? I mean, we've talked about traps, right? Fake out breakouts. Like, this wouldn't surprise me. If this is a couple day move. Now, again, I don't know where the high is going to be. Don't be careful. Right? Be careful. But it makes sense. Intel trade. You like the Intel? Nice and slow. Yeah. I like slow and steady too. I mean, it's just like, you just like waving. You know it's coming. On the FXI, I hate Chinese stocks. I mean, that's the thing is, like, everybody loves them, and that's not how you bottom. It's just not how you bottom, right? You don't bottom with like a sigh and a relief of, wow, that's the bottom. True bottoms are pure misery, pure like unadulterated pain, frustration, people screaming, bloody murder. And people always know too, like, why do I hate Chinese stocks? And it's not that I have anything against Chinese personas. It's just I don't like the Chinese stock market. I think it's a joke. I posted something about it today that if you would have bought Chinese tech 10 years ago, it's down versus American tech, which has been a freaking rocket ship, obviously. So your guess? I mean, again, I don't want to go long and step in front of this because, again, I'm not saying that it can't bottom first. But it seems like a game. China and the U.S. are really kind of pushing this narrative in the market or in the news, right? This was a toughie. Do I think long term this is probably a good price to buy? I mean, probably couldn't go wrong. But I don't know. I mean, if World War III light pops out and everybody now starts sanctioning China, like, this thing could get burned. Remember the Russia index? Was it RSX? That thing got freaking cooked. Give me a second. I don't even think that thing's around. I think they took that off the board. Yeah, it just ended. It just ended. And again, it's probably a new ticker symbol, so I apologize. I don't have it in front of me. But do you want to step in front of that potential? Because, again, I don't know what would happen if China decides to do something silly with Taiwan, which, again, feels like they're going to. So do I want to buy the Chinese stock market if I know a lot of sanctions and potential junk is coming? No, sir. No, sir. Again, I don't like to bottom fish at these levels in the market. If something's acting like crap, what was it? AMC. I mean, somebody was talking to me about this the other day, and they were like, dude, you gotta trade this stock. It's a great trading stock. I'm like, what do you mean it's a trading stock? It looks like a turd, just going lower. And here's the thing, like, I'm looking, and again, I'm not gonna trade AMC, but and this is the thing, if you've been following the channel, you understand how bottoms happen. When do you think the AMC bottom would be, right? It would be when everybody stops pumping it and everyone on Twitter goes, it's dead. And the CEO is finally, they're all like, turn on him. And he's like, he's the Antichrist. Versus at one point he was Jesus Christ walking on water. Oh, but adding Beyonce and Taylor Swift concerts to live shows at AMC theaters, it's a game changer. I was like, what? Huh? Is it? I mean, how many teeny girls are going to go to that for a while before it just... How many times can they go see that? How much money did freaking Taylor Swift pull off of that? That's the question. Boeing. Sorry, I didn't even think about it. The Dow's down today. And somebody, Dem Diggs, if you're listening, you're like, oh, this feels like an easy short. Question becomes, is that, again, when the news comes out, if it drops a significant amount, the day of the drop, you got to be careful. I don't know if this is the day of the short. But if you shorted the open, you're definitely losing. You sold, if you shorted that AM low, let's go look at the 10-minute. All right. I mean, that was oh, sorry, here you go. The AM low, yeah. You're You're upside down. Now, again, you're not like broken. You're just upside down, and it ain't looking good. That's what's hard about this, because when the news comes out about something, it's going to react. And the average person thinks, by nature, well, all right, well, bad news, it's time to short. Oh, gosh, what'd I do? Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, boy, I'm really busting it. Where is it? Oh, yeah, and so you got to be careful. You got to be absolutely careful. I hope that helps, because I had a few people thinking about that, and I was like, ugh. 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 It's like chasing a tech stock up on earnings and like good news. And it's like, is it going to continue? Ugh. You don't know, depending on the time. And so, again, longer term, I mean, someone clearly knew something, which is actually ironic. It's weird. I guess it's just the market, but big volume, somebody's absorbing it today. Got to be careful with news. And that's why I tell people, like, news is for suckers. Tips are for suckers. You know, I'd rather be on the other. I'd like to anticipate the news if possible safely, but reacting to it always, I got to be a little careful. Everything is different. Everything is subject to interpretation. Maybe that's the best way to describe it. So, any other thoughts, questions, concerns? These are great questions. Things that you see the market long enough, you go, you know, Boeing has this bad news. If the market's up today, it's going to probably get bought. If it was a bad day, like, right, if it's not a bad day, but if it's a down day, people would be like, get out of here, right? Yeah, FXI, I don't know, man. Again, I don't like the idea of going and buying the Chinese index like that. I mean, again, I don't pay attention to all the news, but it pops up in my feed, and I see this reoccurring pattern in stocks where when they start pumping a bunch on Twitter, I haven't made this like the science like a fact yet. But like last week, a lot of people and their mom were all like Neo. And then they come out with their car deliveries and it's like, I don't know what the next version of that is, but it's a little suspect. Does that make sense? QQQ getting ready to slam, take off or slam, 28 day. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, rising on lighter volume, little indecision. It's tough. I mean, not like tough, but it's just intraday stuff. Like, it's tough to know. Don't wrap your head around the axle of that kind of stuff, because we knew oversold near term. We expected a bounce once we break the 20-day at some point. So trade around your positions. Be careful. But also, too, if you're long dated and you have great, amazing entries, if you took a little off, trade around your position, but don't give it up. Don't give it up because of one up day. I mean, how many times did we talk about, or not how many times did you see on Twitter probably where RSI for Apple under 30 is always a buy? And that belief is typical. I mean, people have been trading Apple. I mean, think about it. It's one of the most highly owned tradable stocks. Are you surprised? Very soft slam. Oh, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. So this is Apple B1 I'm watching. And so if you go look at the Apple 10-minute, I could see where maybe the market gets a little weak here. I mean, you've got a building resistance with the highest volume post AM. Watch that. I mean, Polish Missile said that's a good question. This is the thing, like internalizing it as too darn obvious or too darn not obvious, or just internalizing any emotion around it. Like, I found myself that like, okay, like Airbnb worked, Apple worked, right? Excuse me, I'm about to sneeze. Ooh. It's just put in your spots, put in your levels, put in your stops, and just let it roll. Because if you internalize it as anything other than it's just going to do what it's going to do, it gets really, I don't know. It's just, you can start painting a picture like financials are just, they're just not going down. And it's like, I mean, I remember action at lows where it's like, it's only going lower. But then it started building a base. And it's like, I think we're oversold. We're going to bounce. Well, here you go. Here was pretty confusing. I like the high and tight chop because it's just, I mean, you're working out all. Think about it. You're working out all of the buyers up here. Because if it drops too quick, they'll be probably there to buy it. It's kind of like Apple, like today, right? If it drops too fast, there's people to buy it. QQ drops pretty quickly. Everyone's like, I gotta buy it. All in. All right. So, sorry. So, just be careful. I mean, it's just chop tops, double tops, retest. I mean, they're all repeating formations. It's just in its essence that you hope when you get in, it turns over, but does that happen? No. Third of the time, it won't do that. And then sometimes it will. So any thoughts, questions, concerns? Again, it's a probability-based game. If you're looking for certainty, it's just you gotta be careful. Gotta be careful. There's no certainty in trading. Autoplay blocked. Thank you. Don't do that. Discord, anyone got anything? You're talking about Google. Google. I got the Goog. Yep. We're there. Now here's the thing, right? With the Q 20 day. Could we wick to the 8 and 10 day? Yep. I would keep that on radar too for wicking. Oh, man. Yeah, I'd be on the radar for that. So, any other thoughts, questions, concerns? Again, I appreciate you guys popping in, saying hi. Hopefully you're having a good day. Had a great week. Solid weekend. I know it's snowing everywhere in the country, essentially. It's even snowed here, which, whatever. That's pretty typical. But the fun thing about Denver, the sneaky secret of Denver, we get snow, but it melts right away because our altitude, any sun, because again, Denver area gets between 280 and 300 days of sun a year. So when it does snow and then the sun pops out, it just melts. I haven't even shoveled once yet this year. And we've had probably 5 snows. So I don't shovel. I don't need to. It just melts. It's nice. My house faces the west. Boom. Did I cover the TLT? No, I didn't actually. Thank you. Let's dig into that one. And the dollar. SPY at the high of the day. Yep. Here you go. Talked about resistance. It's the same weather. Denver. Yeah, Salt Lake is very similar. I mean, everybody and their mom was giving up down here. Nice, 6 to 12. Yeah. I mean, again, I like snow. I don't mind it. Keeps the roads clear from people. Yeah, not surprised near term. I mean, it kind of looks like the market essentially a little bit, right? Like you did break between 20 day. Here you go. Problem is that we got this big old 200 day daddy right here. Oh, daddy. Keep an eye on that. Dollar near term. I mean, it's getting really tight up here. It's clearly waiting for some CPI action, in my opinion. The VIX, I mean, man, you're basically, again, my VIX on here is slightly delayed. It's probably, you're at some support levels, so I get it why people would say watch the Qs for a little reversal here. Okay, yeah. QQ 10 minute. Again, the steepness. So you got a couple candles consolidating. I'm just looking on the 10 minute. So you go nuts. Rubber band, man. You'll zoom out. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. You could arbitrarily draw it there. Let's zoom out just to. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, there you go. It wasn't arbitrary. Never really is. Let's change it to 60-minute. Okay, well, that makes sense here. And remember, this is all sessions, so you get to see some of the like stupid wicks. Pre-morning, AM, pre-market, post-market, PM kind of crap here. So this area makes sense to me. I'd be curious. Sometimes I don't know if you guys do this, and you should, is do the Fibonacci's intraday just to see if they line up. There you go, 50% fib. Wow, 0.618. Yeah, wow. Very convenient how they all line up. And so 405.66. Let's go look at. What's the 8-day at? Okay, 405 and change. Okay, I guess it could get there tomorrow. We'll see. Good stuff as always. Again, I mean, know your levels, know your trades, be safe. SMH, man, trying to rip that thing up. Airbnb getting close to that 140. It's just an interesting market. Like materials, oil, gas down, right? Gold, silver, miners down, tech up, industrials obviously with some Boeing missteps. Trying to look through some of the other names. I mean, certain in the banks down. I mean, it doesn't feel like a very strong market, right? Leadership. We say Head and Shoulders. Or should they bring it back to the trend line? Maybe. This trend line is old. Just got fun. Would you want to check out how the Dow index doubled since 2016? I mean, the Dow doubling. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, people. Yeah, I mean, it's all liquidity based, right? If QT, I mean, this is the thing. Like, you have to assume they're trying to pull liquidity as literally as fast as possible. And that's fucking bonkers. Excuse my language. That's just not sustainable. Like, this is an index with risk and with issues. And again, like, remember how we talked about the idea of a soft landing? Everybody was expecting it. And here's the thing. Like, when have the Feds ever navigated a soft landing? I don't know how they get out of this mess. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know. So people near term are like, oh, you gotta just always be bullish. And it's like, man, that kind of sentiment always seems the most extreme at inflection points, right? Like 2 weeks ago, literally going into the end of the year, everybody and their mom said, and again, I mean, how would you not get caught on to this? I mean, you heard it everywhere, that the market's going to rise in January. The January effect's coming. You got to go higher. You got to go higher. Got to go higher, Dan. It's going higher. I'm like, I mean, we just straight ripped bears a new butthole. Excuse my language. Took out levels, straight line. I'm like, you sure this isn't priced in? You sure? You sure about that? And now what happened? You got the pullback. And now, all right, the first bounce. And this is, again, why social media is interesting for me. Oh, my God, it's so bullish. It's like, all right, is it? Okay. Did Apple break out there? Yeah, it did. The 10-minute I was watching. Ever so slightly. Keep an eye on this for a trap. again, in my mind, what's going to happen here is just it's going to be a volatile market. I think we all know that when the Feds do pivot, they're announcing and confirming a recession. Like if they go accelerated cut, here's the problem though, right? And again, I could be wrong, but and this is what it seems like, is every time you start cutting, you got to throw more and more liquidity at the fire every time to budge the market. So it's like, think about, I still remember in like 2000s, they're like, oh, billions of dollars. Just do $100 billion, $150 billion stimulus and package and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You talk about $150 billion or $100 billion stimulus now, like that's a fucking drop in the bucket. You guys have printed so much stupid money. I mean, I don't know. I mean, how big of QE is possible at this point? I mean, do we want to lose all credibility for the sake of keeping the market up? That's their question I would ask. And so serious going into, again, I think it's going to be like the 1970s. Like they are going to be struggling with inflation and interest rates for years. Because they kept them way too low for way too long. We know that. And so they're going to be trying to digest ultimately what I think is inflation. And they're going to have to like demonetize or devalue the dollar to absorb the debt. Like, and this is why I keep telling people, like, if you're not buying houses, you're not buying hard assets. Like when these guys go into stupidity mode, I mean, your cash is going to be like just devalued in half, in my opinion. Because that's a problem. But again, I don't know how they'll play it out. We just know that they have the same solution, right? Raise rates, create a recession, cut rates, throw liquidity at the market, try to sustain it versus free market digestion, right? Meaning you should, when you have bull markets, you do typically have, as a bear market, part of it is you have lagging. Like you should have typical digestion of what? The market, like the economy, right? Like the definition of, I'd say like a cancer is just unlimited growth, right? Like you can't grow forever. Like you create moral hazard, you create endless speculation that is not sustainable. And I don't think people can wrap their head around that because they don't really understand that. But it's like, think about it. If you print money, keep interest rates low for too long, you created moral hazard and a problem. Now what happened? The markets run up, they go crazy. There's no one left. Like you don't have normal, like in my mind, like cycles within the market. Now you get more extremes. You're gonna get bigger moves either way. Starting to see that, and became even obvious with the AI stuff. Like what? So just be careful out there. I mean, that's the only thing I can tell you ultimately is like if you're trading and you have your ideas, mind wrapped on certain things, do what the market's doing. And if you're wrong, like stop out. It's just, it seems so obvious that we talk about this and it's like, and again, I love it when bears just are like, you're bullish, you're bearish always. I'm like, no, we were bearish here and then this move up. Yeah, it didn't make sense to me. Definitely. Didn't stay bearish the whole time. Like said, be on the lookout for it, but it wasn't shorting endlessly. No, like, dude, took a couple weeks off. I think some of y'all know that. It was like, just relax. Wait for the markets, the seasonality, watch levels. Certain things worked, certain things didn't. But in general, it wasn't like all aboard aggressive. Didn't happen until basically last week. Or I guess it was the start of the year, end of the year. Because we were like, all right, when we know we're running up into the end of the year, this is a markup. We know there's going to be issues going into 2024. People are like, oh, everything's going to be fine. I'm like, all right. Ten cuidado, be careful. So this is where, again, I think right now, like today, this moment, I like how the banks are acting. Again, I'm not surprised by tech. Oil and gas, very interesting that they would kind of pop and then got burned today on the Saudi, showing clear demand destruction, like clear problems. They've got problems. They want to cut production, they want to increase production, cut price. I mean, think about it. It's a game of thieves. I've talked about this within OPEC. Is like once the economy start weakening and they have their quotas and they're all supposed to start cutting, but they all need to make money. And so then, like, you know, there's no trust among thieves. So what are they going to start doing? Quietly keeping and maintaining their production up or even higher because they need the revenue. So we'll see what happens. Oil and coal. I was just looking at some of these names. I mean, it's definitely a stock picker's market, right? Like people are buying and jumping into. Again, I don't know how high NVIDIA goes. I mean, that's probably one we need to watch. But watching the Qs 10-minute chopping here. Okay, a little timeout. We'll see. End of day action. It's tough to say. I wouldn't be surprised by a wick, but I also wouldn't be surprised by people who were waiting to buy, right? Like we're just saying to themselves, well, I'm waiting for the first dip. And the market maker's really good at getting what? People to go, well, this is the start of the next run up. Let's create that narrative. Let's find a price area. Yeah, there we go. Let's pop in a little higher. Like to pull them in. Do you retest the high? That's like the $1 million question you got to ask yourself. So if you do short here, don't go stupid crazy and all in. And if you do, you tighten up that risk real tight. I mean, I don't necessarily believe it has to retest because the straight line moves, but you should be aware. I mean, it's like looking at the IWM. Like, are we really going to retest this straight line move? I highly doubt it. 20-day, I don't know. 196s, keep an eye on it. And again, if it's wrong, you're gone. This isn't about ego anymore. Like, not anymore, but in general. Like, it just can't be. So, all right, I'm going to wrap it up. No questions, concerns, thoughts. I appreciate you guys and gals. Y'all are the shiznit. I love hanging out with you guys, chatting. If you have any specific questions, yes, don't hesitate to ask. And sometimes, again, I honestly think Thursday, Friday is probably when the fireworks start either way. Like today's up move is probably leads to probably some chop. And so if you're trading and all of a sudden you're like, I think the market's going to dump tomorrow or this afternoon, it might be a tradable position, but I don't know if it'll actually unload unless the CPI gets released early, like someone starts leaking it and it really is. Again, high or low, I don't know what the right answer is. I think my prediction is if it's in line, the market likes it. If it's out of line, either way, up or down, the market goes, uh-oh. So, all right, I'm going to wrap it up. Peace, guys. Love you guys. Have a good one.